Aren't you tired of those same old, villainous stories, where her engagement gets broken and she turns evil for revenge? Yeah, well, this isn't one of them. Because when the second Prince Kyle publicly dumps Scarlet Elvandimian in the middle of a royal ball, she doesn't cry, or faint, or curse the heavens. She simply decides to punch someone. It all starts at a dazzling ballroom. The nobles are whispering, and Scarlet's fiancé, or should we say ex-fiancé, Kyle, the ever-arrogant second prince, suddenly announces that he's breaking off their engagement. Why? Because he's in love with Taranetsa, a so-called pure-hearted girl from the Hopkins barony. The crowd erupts in applause. All of them Kyle's boot-licking supporters, of course. Taranetsa, glowing with fake innocence, swears she'll love Kyle forever and be the best couple in the world. Kyle takes that as his cue to start publicly humiliating Scarlet, calling her dull, cold, and villainous. Scarlet tries to keep her composure, calmly reminding him that their engagement was arranged by the royal family before they were even born. But logic doesn't work on this idiot. Kyle accuses her of bullying Taranetsa out of jealousy. Taranetsa smirks, pretending to be an innocent flower, while Scarlet insists she's never even met the girl before tonight. But Kyle twists her words, claiming Scarlet doesn't see people of lower birth. After all, she's from a ducal house, and Taranetsa's just a baron's daughter. The nobles start gossiping like vultures, and Kyle demands that Scarlet confess her crimes. Scarlet, ever the lady, simply tells him to make his own judgment. She'll accept the annulment. But Kyle keeps going, piling on insult after insult, until even Taranetsa calls Scarlet an idiot. That's when Scarlet's patience finally snaps. She straightens her back, looks Kyle dead in the eye, and asks for one last wish before their engagement ends. Kyle, dripping with condescension, assumes she wants jewelry or money. He's wrong. Scarlet clenches her fist, takes a step forward, and demands permission to punch Taranetsa square in the face. Before the prince can react, BM, her fist connects, sending the pure-hearted Taranetsa flying across the ballroom. Gasps echo through the hall. Scarlet mutters that she's simply releasing years of pent-up rage. But how did it come to this? Cue the flashback. Years earlier, little Scarlet was already famous, or infamous, for her temper. One day, her brother Leonardo scolded her for punching a noble boy from House Alexia. But Scarlet argued that the boy deserved it. He was bullying a commoner. Leonardo reminded her that when he arrived, she was covered in blood and grinning ear to ear. Scarlet denied enjoying it, but Leonardo warned her to control her anger and start acting like a lady. After all, her coming-of-age ceremony was just around the corner. At that ceremony, Scarlet was minding her own business when Kyle, the ever-brilliant second prince, approached her. She politely greeted him with proper decorum, which apparently offended him. He called her stupid for being formal and demanded that she serve him. That's right, serve him. Scarlet nearly lost it right then and there. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the fateful night she met the man who'd one day ruin her engagement announcement and her appetite for noble men. Years pass. Scarlet turns 15 and enters the Royal Academy. And guess who's still tormenting her? Kyle. Her father had instructed her to assist the prince at school. But Kyle took that as permission to treat her like his personal servant. One day, after class, Scarlet's friends invite her to dine with them. But Kyle bursts in, shouting and grabbing her by the collar, demanding to know why she hadn't bought him lunch yet. Scarlet calmly says she was about to, but that only enrages him more. He drags her away for punishment. Her friends try to intervene, but Kyle's followers block them. Now here's the kicker. Kyle's anger wasn't about food. He was just bitter because Scarlet was placed in the special curriculum, while he was demoted to common.so. Naturally, he decides to pull out a knife and threaten to cut Scarlet's silver hair as a trophy. Scarlet warns him not to, or she'll tell her father and have the engagement nullified. Kyle mocks her father, calling him a royal lapdog. That's when Scarlet's fist starts twitching again. But before she can punch him, a voice interrupts. From a nearby tree, a lazy but sharp voice says, "Take your lover's quarrel somewhere else." It's Julius von Poliston, the first prince. He jumps down, teasing Kyle for his behavior. Julius apologizes to Scarlet on behalf of his idiot brother, but Scarlet shrugs it off. She's used to it. Still, Julius confronts Kyle for bullying her. Kyle denies everything and even tries to order his retainer to attack Julius, but the man refuses, reminding him you can't lay hands on royalty. Humiliated, Kyle storms off, muttering threats. Scarlet thanks Julius, but he smiles and says, "Did I save you or him?" When she looks confused, he changes the subject, saying he was only up in the tree to escape his sycophants. Turns out the kingdom's in chaos. The noble faction wants to crown Kyle, while the true heir Julius is too strict for their liking. Julius says he doesn't mind being isolated, not when he's found something interesting. Cue dramatic wind, hair flutter, and Scarlet's deadpan expression. Yeah, she's not falling for it. The next day, the academy posts aptitude test results. Julius ranks first, perfect scores across every subject. Scarlet? A bunch of 99s. Even when she outperforms her instructors, they call her sloppy. Julius strolls over, smirking, and whispers that getting a perfect score was easy. Scarlet's pride takes a massive hit, and she swears revenge through hard work. Cue montage of midnight training. Sweat, sword swings, and explosion magic. Soon, she retakes the top spot and beams with pride. Julius congratulates her, patting her head, saying he enjoyed watching her secret training. Her friends tease her, but Scarlet insists they're not close. The next morning, she ignores Julius completely. At lunch, again. After school? Yep, still ignoring him. Julius keeps showing up by coincidence, claiming he likes watching the icy rose make faces. Scarlet's not sure whether to be flattered or alarmed. Then, he asks if Kyle's still bothering her. When she says no, Julius casually brushes her silver hair and admits he's glad she didn't lose it. Then he whips out a wildlife notebook, and Scarlet's listed inside as an animal, and before she can react, he proposes engagement. Scarlet gives him a death glare so cold it could freeze lava. All those years of humiliation, frustration, and romantic chaos boil down to this moment, the night of the ball. Terranetza's fake tears, Kyle's arrogance, the noble's mockery. It all piles up, and so Scarlet snaps. She punches Terranetza into next week, silencing the ballroom. Kyle lunges at her, but when Scarlet glares, he freezes, literally falls to the floor in fear. Now, she's had enough. She puts on her gloves and tells the nobles to brace themselves. The nobles panic, calling for guards, but Scarlet knocks them out with a sleep spell. Seeing her magic, the nobles start begging. One offers his daughter in marriage, another his slaves, another his wife. Scarlet is utterly disgusted. If they can sell others to save themselves, then maybe they deserve a good thrashing. And so she delivers. Bam. Thud. Crash. Nobles fly like bowling pins. Someone in the crowd remembers her old nickname, the Mad Dog Noblewoman. And tonight, she earns it back. After flooring half the nobility, Scarlet turns to Kyle, who's trembling on the floor. Just as she's about to land the finishing blow, her brother Leonardo rushes in, yelling for her to stop. But too late. Kyle's already airborne. From behind Leonardo, Julius appears, laughing softly at the scene. Scarlet, chest heaving, looks up and smiles for the first time in years, finally free of her rage. And that's how the so-called villainess became a legend. Not through scheming, not through tears, but through a righteous, well-deserved punch. That wrap, Scarlet feels a wave of relief seeing both the prince and the corrupted nobles lying on the floor. But that relief fades fast when she spots her brother panicking and the prince laughing like it's comedy night. Julius steps in, demanding an explanation. Why did she do it? Scarlet crosses her arms and calmly states that all the nobles present were knee-deep in crime, and instead of showing remorse, they bragged about it. So, she decided to educate them with her fists. When Julius asks for the real reason, she admits flatly, "They annoyed me, so I beat them up." Julius grumbles that it's unfair. He didn't even get to see the brawl live. Meanwhile, poor Leonardo is losing it. The decade-long peace is over, chaos is back, and he's stuck wondering how to break the news to their parents. Before he can spiral further, Scarlet's vision blurs, her strength drains, and she collapses on the spot. Days later, she's mumbling about hearing church bells and remembering Govrasing Cronoa's blessing. When Scarlet finally opens her eyes, she's greeted, not by flowers, but by an assassin with a dagger aimed at her face. Startled, she does what she does best, punches the assassin clear across the room. Hearing the noise, Leonardo rushes in, sighs at the sight, and mutters something about trouble as soon as she wakes up. Still, he grabs her hand, relieved she's alive. Scarlet apologizes for worrying him, but when he asks her to promise not to hit anyone again, she immediately rejects it. That's when Julius struts in, calling her Sleeping Beauty. He informs her that the royal family officially recognized the annulment of her engagement with Kyle. And Kyle's been disinherited too. Scarlet asks about her punishment, but Julius grins and says there won't be one. In fact, she's become a national sensation. Apparently, she's now hailed as a heroine, the bloody princess who delivered justice with her fists. Leonardo panics again, relieved the mad dog Noblewoman nickname is gone, only to realize she's got an even scarier one now. Julius goes on to reveal that the one who united all the corrupted nobles under Kyle was none other than the Prime Minister, Godwin Bene Carmine. Leonardo adds that someone's been helping the nobles behind the scenes, and they plan to crush the entire faction in one strike. To stop Scarlet from refusing, Julius plays the guilt card, saying she's been nothing but trouble for her poor brother. But Scarlet fires back that it's his fault her brother's always tired since Julius works him to the bone. Leonardo quietly mutters that both of them are the problem. Julius then reveals they've already placed a spy within the second prince's faction. He summons the spy, who turns out to be Sigurd Forgave, Kyle's former retainer. Sigurd bows deeply and apologizes to Scarlet. She smirks, teasing him for his perfect acting and loyalty to Kyle. Julius, being Julius, suggests she vent her resentment with a single punch. Scarlet doesn't hesitate. She swings, but misses on purpose. Seeing his resolve, she pats his cheek and forgives him for protecting her despite being under Kyle's command. Sigurd thanks her, visibly relieved. Later, Scarlet wanders off, deep in thought, wondering what her friends must think about the ballroom incident and how she'll explain it to them. She also hopes she can finally spend some peaceful time with them. But that peace ends fast when she heads to a warehouse to confront the maid assassin. When she gets there, she finds only a discarded maid uniform. Suddenly, a dog lunges at her. Instinctively, she flips it over and pins it down. Turns out, the maid was actually a beastkin named Nanica. Scarlet sighs, asking the dog to drop the act and return to human form. Cornered, Nanica transforms, and surprise, she is actually a he. He grabs a knife to finish the job, but Scarlet notices the slave crest on his body, forcing absolute obedience. She offers him a deal. She'll free him from the crest if he tells her who ordered the hit. Nanica agrees, if she can actually do it. Scarlet then tackles him and activates her blessing, reverse. She explains that every human is born with a god's blessing, but only a few can awaken and channel it. Her blessing comes from Cronoa, the god of time. She uses it to revert Nanica's body to its original state, a terrifying ability that even the royal family wants to keep under their control. The downside, it drains her life force. That's why she fainted at the ball. Nanica, awestruck, can't believe such power exists. Scarlet warns him to keep quiet, or else he will get punched. Nanica, grateful and honest, promises to protect her secret, saying beastkin always repay kindness. He then reveals the shocking truth. His master was none other than the Prime Minister, Godwin Bene Carmine, the same man who united the corrupted nobles. He ordered Nanica to assassinate her as revenge for punching his son at the ball. But the real mission wasn't to kill her. It was to spy on the Duke's family. According to Nanica, Godwin uses slaves to infiltrate noble houses, blackmailing them into obedience. Scarlet clenches her fist, furious, and declares she's going to punch Godwin personally. Nanica desperately tries to talk her out of it, suggesting she leave it to her brother and Julius. But Scarlet refuses. If she's going to be a lady, then she'll handle it with her fists. Nanica finally tells her that Godwin visits a slave auction once a month, and one's coming up in a week. He asks her to take him along since he can blend in with the traders. Scarlet agrees. What she doesn't realize, though, is that Julius has been eavesdropping the whole time. 3 days later, Scarlet and Nanica make it to the slums. Scarlet immediately gets scammed into buying a rock for a gold coin, thinking it's mithril ore. Before she can explode, she senses something off and calls out Julius, who casually admits he followed her because he doesn't want to miss her roasting the entire slave auction. He also adds that he wants to see the kingdom's darker side firsthand before becoming king. then admits the real reason. He just wants to watch the chaos unfold. Suddenly, some thugs appear, and Scarlet's eyes light up like a kid on her birthday, ready to fight. But Nanica holds her back, suggesting they talk first. Nanica politely asks the thugs if they know a broker named Junk, offering a reward. But they refuse, mocking her for being the lady who paid gold for a rock. To make it worse, they beat up the kid and steal his coin. That's when Scarlet snaps. She crushes the rock in her hand and throws it at them, activates physical enhancement and acceleration, and charges straight in. Her first punch sends one thug flying. The second one's bones crack under her strike. She kicks the third so hard he flies off to the sky. When one of the thugs recognizes her, the cold eyes, the short temper, he realizes who she is. The Fist Princess, the nickname she has in the slums. Scarlet thanks him for remembering, then knocks him out anyway. Julius strolls up, teasing her that her face looks unsatisfied, like she didn't punch enough people. Scarlet glares at him, clearly tempted to fix that. Julius then says he'll handle the next part since Nanica's identity might blow their cover. A while later, Julius finds and interrogates the broker, Junk, and easily extracts the name and location of the traitor. When Scarlet asks how he managed that so fast, Julius proudly admits he just lied, said he knew Junk's crimes and could jail him for life. Scarlet praises his talent for deceit. Julius smirks and warns her not to underestimate him. The group then gathers to discuss how to infiltrate the upcoming slave auction. That's when Nanica, thinking hard, proposes a rather unexpected idea. Scarlet and Nanica approach the slave trader Lord Zatharin, using a cover story of Scarlet seeking to buy a slave. The trader expresses surprise at seeing a noblewoman defy her parents to purchase a slave, especially by meeting with someone like him. Scarlet explains she had no other choice and inquires about his connection to Junk. Zatharin clarifies they share no relationship, only a contract to deliver valuable slaves from the slums. Elves, dwarves, demons, or beastkin like the one she brought. Startled, Scarlet asks how he knew Nanica was a beastkin. Zatharin laughs, noting her appearance and the noble's habit of collecting rare specimens, chuckling at his own jest. Scarlet clenches her fist, ready to strike, but Nanica urges her to restrain herself. After his laughter subsides, Zatharin asks what kind of slave she seeks. Scarlet reveals she doesn't intend to buy one, but wishes to attend the slave auction in a week. Zatharin outlines the conditions. She must undergo a review and complete at least 6 slave transactions over half a year. Scarlet assures him she's prepared to pay any price. Zatharin declines her money, proposing instead that she offer her slave as payment. In return, he'll escort her as a distant relative. Smirking, Scarlet agrees if that's all it requires. She marvels at the brazen conduct of this forbidden trade, thriving openly in the city center among prominent nobles. Concluding their business, Scarlet praises Nanica's plan and its success. As they walk, she asks if he's certain of his decision, noting she might clear his slave crest but can't guarantee his safety inside. Nanica reassures her that Zatharin's demeanor suggests he won't be harmed, as he's slated for auction. Yawning from sleepiness, he transforms into a dog and dozes in Scarlet's arms. At their inn, Julius awaits, asking if she resolved matters without punching anyone. Annoyed yet compliant, she confirms she did, tucks Nanica into bed, and steps out for fresh air. Julius joins her, citing his own business on the streets. Merchants offer Scarlet jewelry and a fortune-telling, but Julius handles them. Finally, an apple seller presents an apple pie with a free apple. Julius buys 2, and they continue. Curious, Scarlet calls him my plainly dressed golden-haired lord and asks if he finished his business. Julius counters with my plainly dressed silver-haired lady, admitting he made it up. Frustrated, Scarlet punches a wall, wishing it were his face. Turning to return to the inn, Julius feeds her the apple pie. Addicted after the first bite, they sit on a bench to enjoy it. Scarlet asks how he knows the city. He confides it's a secret, revealing he often sneaked from the academy to explore, always wanting her to try the pie. Julius admits hating boredom, surrounded by greedy nobles currying favor since childhood, but found interest in Scarlet after Kyle assaulted her at the ball and left. He approached her, assuring her she needn't fear Kyle and could report to His Majesty. Her smirking reply, "Don't make me laugh, me afraid of Kyle?" intrigued him. Suddenly, he kisses her, confessing his feelings aren't traditional romantic love, but that she's dear to him above all. Back at the inn, Scarlet wonders if it was another tease or something more. The next day, Scarlet visits Zatharin to exchange Nanica for the auction permit. Zatharin, however, insists on verifying Nanica's beastkin nature. To satisfy his curiosity, Scarlet orders Nanica to transform. Seeing his beast form, Zatharin has no further doubts. Suddenly, Donovan bursts in, asking if Scarlet is the slave they're taking. Zatharin apologizes for his rudeness, correcting that she's a customer. Noticing Nanica's glare in beast form, Donovan assumes he's the slave, shackles his neck, and tries to drag him. Nanica resists. Furious, Donovan draws a whip to strike, but Scarlet grabs it, stopping him and offering advice on discipline. Zatharin warns her that Donovan, a former A-rank adventurer, requires Knight Captain-level skill to handle. Undeterred, Donovan tries to drag her with the whip, but she doesn't budge. Confirming Donovan isn't for auction, Zatharin calls him his bodyguard. Scarlet lifts and punches him, sending him flying. She frees Nanica's shackles, heals his wounds, and promises to stay strong until she retrieves him, offering to compensate for the broken window. She's surprised when a terrified Zatharin waves it off, asking only to set a meeting time for the auction, returning to the inn. Scarlet finds a familiar carriage outside. Leonardo emerges, annoyed, demanding an explanation. Julius sold her out. At the palace, Leo fumes at their recklessness, risking themselves despite their importance to the kingdom, especially Scarlet, a 17-year-old maiden with a notorious reputation. Scarlet escalates his worry by revealing the auction is in 2 days. Leo demands she return home, but she refuses, explaining that since her engagement ended, she's reverted to the mad dog Noblewoman. She questions why the rich prosper while the poor suffer, and why figures like Godwin and his faction evade justice. She finds punching greedy nobles deeply satisfying. Leo panics at her words, while Julius finds it amusing. Scarlet justifies it as the Duke's daughter, but Leo warns it'll ruin their house's reputation. He adds that Godwin may link to the Vanquish Empire, a neighboring Dragon Rider kingdom, with Godwin contacting the Retsky Dragon's aerial core. Meanwhile, at Godwin's mansion, he meets cloaked figures, ordering them to eliminate her. One smirks and departs on dragons. Someone approaches with a strange weapon, a gift from Goddess Palmia. Godwin shows a pendant from her too, but the figure shoots him. It's Terranetsa, explaining the weapon can defeat even the fiercest foes, urging him to use it against his enemy. The night of the grand auction finally arrives. Scarlet steps out of the carriage and thanks Zatharin for inviting her. Zatharin smiles and says it's his pleasure before handing her a mask to wear. With that, Scarlet dons the mask and follows into the luxurious auction house. The reason Leo allows Scarlet to infiltrate is because Julius convinced him that if the Vanquish Empire's Retsky dragons are involved, Scarlet would be essential to the plan. They can only sneak in about 10 spies, unarmed at that. But with Scarlet there, they don't need to worry. Her fists are more than enough. And if she succeeds, she'll finally be free from her bloody nickname, earning instead the title of Iron-Fisted Savior. Meanwhile, Leo waits anxiously outside for Julius's signal to raid the place. But the thought of Scarlet losing control again terrifies him so much that he ends up taking medicine to calm his stomach. Inside, Scarlet walks through a crowd of corrupted nobles boasting about what kind of slaves they plan to buy. Suddenly, the lights go out. In the dark, she bumps into someone who apologizes and walks away. For a brief moment, she feels like she knows him, but before she can think more about it, the music starts, signaling the auction's beginning. The nobles brag loudly about how they've gotten rich by overtaxing the people. Then the first item is brought out, a rare one-winged avian slave. Bidding erupts instantly. Julius suddenly appears behind Scarlet, checking in. "Found Godwin yet?" he asks. Scarlet shakes her head. "Not exactly, but I have a hunch where he might be." Julius warns her to hurry, because if she takes too long, the knights outside might storm the place and take her target away. Hearing that, Scarlet proposes a deal. Julius delays the raid, and in return, she gets to beat Godwin to her heart's content. Julius readily agrees. After all, the only reason he joined this undercover mission was to witness her punch Godwin himself. But when he asks what she'll offer in exchange, Scarlet vows eternal loyalty to the kingdom. Julius smirks. Not the kingdom, he says. Swear your loyalty to me. Fearing she'll lose her chance at Godwin otherwise, Scarlet reluctantly agrees. As the auction continues, she informs Julius of her hunch. Together, they slip away, with Julius eager to witness what he calls a once-in-a-lifetime beatdown. Elsewhere, a mother is separated from her daughter to be sold. The little girl tries to follow, but Nanica stops her, promising everything will be all right. Back with Scarlet, Julius praises her for knocking out only the innocent guards rather than killing them. But when they reach Godwin's room, they're blocked by armed mercenaries. Scarlet cracks her knuckles, seeing them as mere appetizers before the main dish. Meanwhile, the auction pauses for a short musical performance, perfectly syncing with Scarlet's fight as her punches land in rhythm, creating a strangely beautiful chaos. One mercenary flies through the air, crashes through the door, and Scarlet makes her grand entrance. Inside, Godwin's son Heine furiously recognizes her. Still humiliated from the ball incident, he calls upon thunder magic, but to his shock, Julius uses the royal seal to nullify all magic in the area. Godwin realizes what happened but refuses to believe the crown prince himself would be here, calling Julius an imposter and ordering his slave to kill them. That slave turns out to be Donovan. He raises his hand, but before he can strike, Sigurd bursts in and slices off Donovan's hand. Enraged, Godwin commands his guards to attack. Sigurd tells Scarlet and Julius to stay back, but Scarlet grabs him by the collar and warns him not to touch the nobles, because they're her punching bags. Instead, she tells him to fight Donovan, and Sigurd reluctantly agrees. Scarlet grabs a noble by the leg and spins him like a hammer throw, laughing as the room descends into chaos. Bodies fly everywhere. One even crashes through the auction floor below, causing total panic among the guests. Outside, Leo rushes in after not receiving Julius's signal, only to find his sister seemingly going on a rampage. Downstairs, Sigurd and Donovan continue their brutal fight. Julius finally calls for the knights, but Scarlet reminds him of their deal. She gets to finish Godwin herself. Julius promises he won't break his vow and that she'll get her wish. Leo, confused, overhears and thinks the vow they mentioned was a marriage promise. He bursts into tears of joy before refocusing and activating his blessing, clairvoyance. He scans the entire building and spots Godwin and Heine fleeing toward the roof. And to his shock, a dragon approaches from above too. That confirms it. Godwin has been conspiring with the Vanquish Empire. Scarlet suddenly removes her shoes and says it'll be faster that way. Then activates her blessing. Acceleration, triple burst. Time slows around her as she moves at inhuman speed, leaping from wall to wall until she bursts through the roof on the rooftop. She sees Godwin and Heine running toward the dragon. Heine arrogantly orders the rider to let them board, but the cloaked rider instead commands the dragon to attack. The beast's tail lashes out, but Scarlet descends just in time, stopping the massive strike with one hand. Impressed, the cloaked rider removes his hood and with a bold grin, declares that he's fallen in love with her. He proposes marriage on the spot. Scarlet responds with a clean punch that sends him flying like a ragdoll. The dragon tries to retaliate, but she subdues it effortlessly with one hand. The man returns, trembling but persistent, asking again for her hand. She punches and kicks him again, knocking him away, but he keeps getting up, still confessing. Scarlet finally asks whether his focus should be on her or on the man he came to kill. At that, his expression hardens. Scarlet reveals that she knows his true identity, the first prince of the Vanquish Empire, Alflame Rare Vanquish. Alflame admits it openly, saying he indeed came to kill Godwin. Godwin panics and screams in betrayal. After all the secrets he shared, Alflame now wants him dead? The prince coldly replies, "If you can sell out your own kingdom, how could I ever trust you with mine?" And hurls his spear. Scarlet kicks the spear midair, shattering it. "He's my punching bag," she says flatly. Alflame grabs her leg and, still obsessed, confesses his love again. Scarlet notices something strange. His body feels unnaturally hard. He explains that his blessing, metallization, from the god of steel meteor, makes him invulnerable to physical attacks. Scarlet smirks. "There's always a way," she says, pulling his head close. She switches to close-quarters combat, grappling him and landing a flurry of brutal knee strikes to his face. For a moment, he thinks he's fine. Then his legs give out, and he collapses, gasping. Even as he kneels before her, he smiles, praising her for bringing him to his knees. Scarlet's had enough. She grabs him by the collar, activates acceleration, triple burst again, and launches him into the night sky as he disappears among the stars. Scarlet turns back to Godwin. Terrified, he begs for his life, apologizing for trying to have her killed and for plotting to use Terraneza to break her engagement. Scarlet freezes at the name, shocked to hear Terraneza and Godwin were working together. Furious, she demands the truth. Godwin admits that he never truly helped Terraneza. He only went along with her plan. In exchange for his life, he offers to reveal who she really is. And with trembling lips, he confesses a truth that shakes Scarlet to her core. Terraneza isn't from this world. She was reincarnated here, by the power of the goddess herself. As Scarlet confronts Minister Godwin, Zatharine rushes toward the underground cell, cursing his luck but still determined to recover his losses using the beastkin. Before he can reach Nanica, though, the Royal Knights show up and arrest him on the spot. Meanwhile, up on the roof, Scarlet faces Godwin directly. He tried to tell her that everything was part of Terranetz's plan. But Scarlet informs him she doesn't know what he is talking about, and she declares that she'll punish him herself. Panicked, Godwin tries to bargain for his life, claiming he can grant her any wish within his authority. Scarlet's answer is sharp and mocking as she tells him she wants a shifty-eyed, pointy-nosed, well-padded punching bag. The words hang for a second, and as he laughs, the realization dawns. She's describing him, trapped and powerless. Godwin freezes, while Scarlet tilts her head slightly, her expression calm, yet merciless. She whispers her spell, overclock, and suddenly, time slows to a crawl, everything 100 times slower, while she alone moves freely. Her first strike lands for the kingdom's subjects, carrying the weight of every soul he had exploited. The second smashes down for the slaves whose bodies and spirits he had broken. The third for Nanica, avenging how he had toyed with her fate. And the fourth, purely her own, a raw burst of fury meant only to pummel him senseless. When time returns to normal, the full force of her blows erupts all at once, sending Godwin's body crashing violently between the walls. Scarlet steps back, breathing hard, watching the destruction with grim satisfaction. But the cost is clear. Her power's overuse drains her completely. Her fists drip with blood, her silver hair darkens, and she thinks bitterly that her brother would scold her again for pushing herself too far. Just as her vision begins to fade, someone catches her before she falls, thinking it's her brother, only to find Prince Julius holding her. Using his magic, he heals her wounds while marveling at the devastation around them, astonished that a mere human could fight with such strength. Moments later, Nanica, Leonardo, and Sigurd rush in, panic written all over their faces. They ask if she's okay. Scarlet reassures them she's fine and apologizes to Nanica for arriving late. Sigurd immediately asks what happened to Godwin, and Scarlet dryly replies that he went through the wall. Suddenly, Godwin reappears, bloodied but alive, aiming a gun at Scarlet and shouting for her death. Julius reacts instantly, shielding her and taking the bullet. Godwin laughs, mocking them both, claiming victory at last for killing the prince. But before anyone can react, Scarlet's rage ignites. She rushes forward, her punch landing squarely. When Godwin sneers that her punches are useless, Scarlet spots the pendant around his neck and instantly understands. It's the Holy Maiden's pendant, said to hold the power of the god Pelmia. She rips it from him, declaring she'll return it with her fist. Her next strike shatters him, the blow echoing like judgment itself. Godwin drops to his knees, begging for mercy, but Scarlet silences him with a brutal kick that sends him flying. Apologize to Lord Julius in the next world, she says coldly. When the dust settles, Scarlet kneels beside Julius, tears in her eyes. She tells him she's avenged him, that he can rest in peace now, but Julius coughs, proving he's still alive. Everyone freezes, stunned. Once the light of the spell fades, Julius opens his eyes, smiling faintly. Scarlet's relief overwhelms her as she cries with joy. Afterward, the aftermath unfolds quickly. Every noble tied to the slave auction is arrested, and the freed slaves return home. Godwin, though nearly destroyed, somehow survives, something Nanica finds unbelievable. Inside the carriage, Scarlet finally relaxes, whispering that she's achieved what she wanted. Far away, in the Vanquish Empire, a young knight finds Prince Alflame stuck in a tree. He kicks the trunk, knocking him down safely. Carrying him away, the knight sighs with relief, but Alflame mutters that he might have broken every bone in his body. The knight laughs, saying that's impossible, since the prince's body's tougher than steel. Alflame then admits he was blasted there from another kingdom, and surviving cost him all his divine blessings. Later, as they fly on a dragon, the knight jokes about the toy Alflame went after. With a cool smile, Alflame replies that he did more than expected, and that he looks forward to meeting it again. Back in Palestine, news spreads fast. Minister Godwin's downfall dominates every street corner. Citizens praise Lady Scarlet, calling her the blood-stained lady or the iron-fisted savior. At the academy, Rosalia and Envy read the headlines, amazed as always. They joke about reporters digging into Scarlet's personal life, what pets she keeps. Rosalia teases that a graceful white cat would suit her, while Envy imagines a loyal black dog to match her strength. Meanwhile, Scarlet's busy training her new dragon. From behind a pillar, Nanica peeks shyly, watching her with quiet admiration. The butler, Cervantes, approaches to report that the item she requested is now being sold in town. He's unsure if it'll sell well, but Scarlet assures him it will. After all, Prince Julius seemed fond of it. Cervantes smiles faintly and adds that Nanica's been staring at her for quite some time. When Scarlet calls out his name, Nanica transforms into his small beast form and jumps into her arms like an affectionate puppy. The maid sighs, scolding him, reminding them they're expecting guests soon. Meanwhile, deep in the royal prison, Terranetza walks the dark corridors, her goal clear: rewrite her own ending. When the guards challenge her, a flick of magic clouds their minds, letting her pass unhindered. She finds Godwin imprisoned, desperate for release. Promising loyalty to the goddess Pelmia in exchange, Terranetza listens coolly, acknowledging his part in spreading communism, the false religion of beauty and pleasure. When he eagerly confirms, she touches his face, casting a spell that leaves him drooling and delirious. She sets a vial of poison beside him, a final farewell, and leaves him to die, already setting her sights on her next target, the villainous Scarlet L. Vamian. Later, Sigurd reports that Godwin died from poison. Julius doubts the story, noting that a man like Godwin wouldn't take his own life. Leonardo agrees, mentioning that Terranetza remains unaccounted for. Their talk turns to religion, Pommunism versus Dianism. Julius explains that Pommunism, now the state faith, worships Pelmia, the goddess of beauty, but lacks substance. Dianism, the older faith, venerates Saint Diana, a saint of exorcism and virtue. Julius warns that the upcoming Dianism ceremony will be dangerous and adds that Scarlet will likely be involved. Leonardo reassures him she's recovering. She even went hunting for her dragon's meal yesterday. Julius chuckles, calling her unstoppable, and half-jokingly muses about marrying her. Leonardo cuts in, reminding him they've already taken vows in secret. Julius only smiles, amused, quietly deciding to visit her himself. Days later, Scarlet returns home after her dragon ride. Her friends Rosalia and Envy arrive soon after, but when they see the dragon, they panic and attack before realizing their mistake. Over tea, they laugh it off, reminiscing about academy days. Envy brags about running the dorms. Rosalia teases her about crying over Scarlet's absence. Then, the topic shifts to marriage. Envy claims she'll only marry someone willing to risk his life for her. Scarlet stays quiet, lost in thought, remembering Julius taking the bullet for her. Just then, Nanica knocks and announces a visitor. Prince Julius, everyone stunned. Julius greets them politely, asking to speak with Scarlet in private. Envy and Rosalia giggle, urging her to go. While Scarlet mutters that they're traitors that eye in the garden, Julius tells her that Godwin is dead and Terranetza's whereabouts are unknown. He then mentions her hair still hasn't recovered. Scarlet says she'll visit the hot springs soon, and he agrees it's wise, saying she's essential to the kingdom. But Scarlet counters firmly, telling him not to be reckless again. Even the blessing of the god of time, Cronoa, means nothing if the next king dies, trying to change the mood. Julius picks roses and reminisces about his parents, how his father once won his mother's heart not with gold, but a handmade crown. His tone softens, and as he steps closer, he tells Scarlet that ever since meeting her, his world has regained its color. Then, with a mixture of tenderness and arrogance, he whispers that she's stolen his heart and calls her his most beloved toy. Scarlet's face pales in fury. She demands to know if his love is real, and when he smugly says it's love for his amusing toy, her patience snaps. Julius tries to defuse the tension with a joke about her habit of breaking walls and beating ministers. But Scarlet's glare hardens. Without another word, she clenches her fist and vows flatly that she'll clobber the insolent prince standing before her. Scarlet stands alone on the balcony, lost in thought about Terranet's disappearance and the growing schemes of the Pomian faction. Holding a letter that invites her to meet at Diana Cathedral in a month, she silently vows to protect the saint no matter what. The next morning at breakfast, she announces a trip to the hot springs. Leonardo frowns right away, suspecting she's up to something. He reminds her of that past vow she made with Prince Julius, the one she still insists was genuine. Nanica questions her intentions, and Leonardo points out that Scarlet always plans her trips around this same time of year along the Holy Land's pilgrimage route. Scarlet insists she means no harm and only wishes to honor the saint. Leonardo finally gives in, warning her not to cause trouble. When Scarlet steps outside, she finds Prince Julius already waiting beside the carriage, and the two set off. As the carriage rolls down the road, Julius laughs about how Leonardo probably suspects Scarlet plans to confront the saint. Scarlet replies that as the head of the Crown's investigators, Leonardo surely isn't fooled by her pilgrimage. Julius chuckles, saying that keeping it secret will make Leonardo's reaction all the more entertaining. Scarlet frowns, but Julius suddenly turns serious. He explains that after the Godwin incident, neighboring realms have grown wary of them. Spies might still remain. He insists they keep their mission secret, even from Leonardo. As the carriage nears its destination, Julius points ahead. A colossal wall comes into view, the Wall of Impurity. Scarlet studies the towering structure, while Julius explains that the Pomian Pope claims it protects the sacred grounds, though he suspects it hides corruption instead. Scarlet recalls that the current Pope, Sargon, was once a crooked merchant nicknamed the Scheming Social Climber. Before she can respond, the carriage suddenly lurches to a stop. Julius jumps down and demands to know what's wrong. The coachman explains that the gate ahead has just been closed. A guard steps forward, saying Pope Sargon forbade anyone from entering without the king's approval. Julius scowls, calling it childish obstinacy since the king is away on conference. That's when a huge man steps up, furious at the insult. He introduces himself as Jarmov the Ogre, Inquisitor of Communism, and vows to drive out heretics, even princes, in the name of the goddess Palmia. Scarlet watches, amused by his bluster. Julius demands to know if the king actually appointed this inquisitor, but Jarmov proudly declares his loyalty to the Pope alone. Raising his ornate hammer, he vows divine punishment for all heretics. Scarlet steps forward calmly, saying they'll open the gate themselves. Jarmov scoffs, boasting that no spell or battering ram could so much as scratch the holy gate. Without another word, Scarlet activates her blessing, presses a hand to the gate, and strikes it once. The entire barrier shatters apart in a single blow. Everyone stares in shock. Jarmov gapes, unable to believe what just happened. Scarlet turns to him and dryly remarks that perhaps to open the gate, one only needs to push, not pull. The crowd gasps, and one guard trembles, calling her a monster. Scarlet feigns mild offense at being called that, insisting she's just a delicate maiden. But when Jarmov finally realizes who she is, he starts shaking. The name Scarlet Elvanmian spreads in whispers through the crowd. Enraged, Jarmov calls her evil incarnate and blames her for corrupting Minister Godwin. Without hesitation, Scarlet borrows a knight's spear and takes a stance. Jarmov roars and charges, his massive hammer swinging down. Scarlet meets the blow head-on and deflects it effortlessly, sending the hammer recoiling back into him. Even then, he stays on his feet, the sacred pendants around his neck glowing. Scarlet rolls her eyes, lunges forward, and punches him squarely in the face. The force launches him skyward. Watching him fly, Scarlet mutters that if you hit hard enough, even pigs can fly. Soon after, the Holy Order of Diana arrives. Captain Sir Paragus rushes over, relieved to see Scarlet and Julius unharmed. He apologizes for the delay, explaining that his knights were busy suppressing riots led by Pomian worshippers. Just then, a casual knight approaches, calling Scarlet a beauty and asking where he's seen her before. Julius immediately rebukes him for his rudeness, but the knight asking if Julius is really the prince, which angers Paragus. Under pressure, the man finally introduces himself, Dios Westwood, head knight of the Holy Order. Scarlet greets him politely, but Dios immediately confesses his affection and even asks her to be his girlfriend, shocking everyone. Scarlet replies that nobles must marry equals. Dios just waves it off, claiming he has royal elvish blood through his mother. Scarlet laughs softly at his audacity. Julius steps between them, demanding that Dios show respect, and though Dios pretends confusion, he eventually backs off. Scarlet notices that Julius is still holding her hand. She points it out gently, and he quickly pulls away, apologizing. When Scarlet asks about Dios's strange remark, Julius cuts her off, saying it's time to meet Saint Diana. Inside the Grand Cathedral, they enter a private chamber where Scarlet greets Saint Diana warmly. Diana, eyes brimming with tears, rushes into her arms, calling her elder sister. Julius stands aside, quietly observing. Diana then turns on him, accusing him of interrupting rudely. Diana quickly refocuses, insisting they talk about the upcoming pilgrimage ceremony. Julius begins explaining the Holy Land pilgrimage's origin. Centuries ago, a demon king unleashed monsters across Piston. Despair consumed the land until a girl with exorcist powers appeared. She placed holy gems at the four corners of the realm, forming a barrier that banished the monsters. After her death, the barrier weakened and the monsters returned, until another girl named Diana appeared and restored it again. In gratitude, the king built the Grand Cathedral to honor both saints. Ever since, whenever the barrier falters, another chosen girl named Diana arises to renew it. As Julius speaks, Scarlet notices the current. Diana blushing, embarrassed by the praise. Julius explains that the current Saint Diana's role is to purify the sacred gems and strengthen the barrier once more. Diana sighs that standing in parades is exhausting, but Julius insists the people need to see their saint alive and well to keep faith strong. Diana quickly admits he's right, saying she was only teasing. She knows her role. Later that night in the cathedral, Scarlet tells Diana a story about subduing a corrupt noble with her bare hands. Diana listens in awe and calls her incredible, saying she wishes to be like her, strong, beautiful. Scarlet teases her, asking if that means she dislikes all men. Diana laughs, saying most men are messy and domineering. An attendant knocks, reminding Diana to rest. Scarlet rises to leave, but Diana begs her to stay longer. Before she goes, Diana shyly asks a favor. She explains that her father gave her the name Sonia to make her feel special. Scarlet promises to call her that from now on. Diana beams with joy, and they say goodnight. As Scarlet walks down the corridor, her mind drifts to the day Diana lost her saintly power, how she trembled, feeling worthless. The next day, Piston bursts into celebration for the Grand Pilgrimage Parade. The streets overflow with cheering crowds as Saint Diana stands on a golden palanquin, performing the purification ritual. The people chant her name, calling her their guardian angel and symbol of hope. But suddenly, a thunderous explosion tears through the city. The ground shakes and panic spreads. Scarlet leaps onto a carriage roof, scanning for the source. Saint Diana shouts for everyone to stay calm, while the Holy Order scrambles to restore order. Scarlet narrows her eyes. The blast came from the direction of the Pomian Cathedral. Without hesitation, she launches into the air, soaring over the city, and lands atop the grand statue of the goddess Palmia. Reaching down, she grabs the statue's ornamental spear. She declares it's time for her own kind of festival, but of battle and blood. Scarlet landed atop the Pomian Cathedral, eyes scanning for the terrorists responsible for the earlier explosion. Without hesitation, she activated her acceleration blessing and hurled the spear she had taken from the goddess Palmia's statue. The weapon tore through the building, shattering stone walls and sending a shockwave that reduced much of the cathedral to rubble. From the wreckage, several Pomian adherents emerged, robes tattered, shouting among themselves in disbelief. They argued that the spirit itself must have caused the destruction. Calmly, she announced she was the one who had thrown the spear. Initially ignored, the group's panic grew as they realized they faced Scarlet L. Van Mien, the so-called silver-haired devil. Scarlet observed their disorientation with detached calculation. The adherents accused her of blasphemy. One of them, arrogantly declaring their sacred mission to destroy evil, summoned their inquisitor, Catarl the Wise. He stepped forward, fury in his eyes, condemning Scarlet for defiling Pomianism. Recognizing the spear as a sacred relic, his rage intensified. Before he could finish casting a spell, Scarlet's strategy silenced him. The shattered statue head struck his face. Tears streamed down his face as he attempted to explain their mission to stop the Jan festival. Scarlet acknowledged his words without emotion, knocking him unconscious. When one zealot charged, she sent him flying with a single punch, remarking quietly that stupidity could only be cured through pain. The remaining Pomians were left half dead. In the central plaza, royal healers tended to civilians. Scarlet noted their presence, recognizing them as Prince Julius's appointed healers. Suddenly, Saint Diana called to her from a palan, but it broke, sending her falling. Before impact, she was caught by a white horse, and its rider was none other than her elder brother, Leonardo. Concerned, he asked if she was hurt. Diana, blushing, assured him she was fine. the royal palace. Sigurd reported the town was calm and pilgrims had departed safely. Prince Julius warned that Pomians might still have prepared traps and tasked Sigurd with infiltrating their ranks, warning of a possible spy among the pilgrimage. Sigurd pledged compliance. Scarlet and Leonardo joined the pilgrimage. Leonardo questioned why Scarlet had accompanied them. She replied simply that she had witnessed the Pomians' wrongdoing and had postponed her hot springs trip to assist. Leonardo did not fully believe her, but refrained from pressing. Their conversation shifted to rumors among the captured Pomian disciples, who feared this silver-haired devil would use them as punching bags or wall decorations. Scarlet maintained an innocent demeanor, feigning ignorance. While Leonardo observed her with suspicion, she offered him a cookie to distract from the tension. Leonardo understood that her assistance involved her blessing and assumed Prince Julius had sworn her to secrecy. He reminded her of the limits of her power, urging caution. Scarlet smiled faintly and promised she would heed his advice. Night fell, and Night set up camp. Paragus scolded Dios for neglecting duties, dragging him to collect firewood. Scarlet watched quietly, amused. The caretaker of St. Diana approached, requesting a private moment. Scarlet followed to the tent, discovering Diana restless and muttering. Diana admitted that every time she saw Scarlet, she was reminded of the man who had caught her from falling, Leonardo. Scarlet, noting the girl's infatuation, complimented her choice. Diana blushed, confessing uncertainty about her feelings, and Scarlet encouraged her gently. 1 week later, the pilgrimage reached Memphis, the eastern border city famed for its hot springs. Scarlet suggested reviewing their plan. Sonia hesitated to invite Leonardo on a nighttime outing, but Scarlet reminded her that love required action and reassured her that everything would go smoothly. Scarlet guided Sonia's preparation, advising her on attire and hair, presenting a traditional Memphis dress to reveal a softer side. Nanica, the small guardian, was assigned to oversee both Sonia and Leonardo, much to Sonia's surprise. Scarlet acknowledged Nanica's loyalty while teasing him, instructing Sonia to act naturally. That evening, Sonia invited Leonardo to tour the city. Hesitant at first, he accepted after remembering Scarlet's advice. Watching from a distance, Scarlet monitored the situation, satisfied with the unfolding plan. As Scarlet explored the city, she encountered Julius, who arrived unexpectedly. Their conversation turned to local adventurers, and Scarlet reminded him of the Lyanthrope incident from the slave auction that a commotion broke out at a nearby shop. An adventurer, enraged from losing a bet, began smashing merchandise. Scarlet judged him fit for her intervention. Julius bought all merchandise, giving her the green light. With lethal speed, she neutralized the adventurers, noting their boastful claims with contempt. Meanwhile, Leonardo guided Diana through the festival. She struggled with a goldfish scooping game, and he gently assisted her. She admired small accessories, and they ended up wearing matching cat-shaped headbands. Moments of light-hearted joy were interrupted by drunken men, prompting Leonardo to shield Diana. She reflected on her own perceived shortcomings compared to Scarlet, and Leonardo reassured her of her value to the kingdom. Their moment was shattered by a distant shout celebrating a silver-haired lady. Leonardo realized Scarlet was at the center of the disturbance and quickly instructed Diana's safe return to the inn before sprinting toward the commotion. Diana watched him leave, lamenting her own inability to act as her sister could. The Holy Knight Order of Dianism patrolled nearby streets. Dios accepted food from a grateful shopkeeper, despite Paragus' warnings. Alone, he slipped into a dark alley to read a secret letter under a lantern, foreshadowing intrigue. Far across the continent, the Redsky Dragoon Knights trained rigorously. A messenger hurried to their commander, Alflame, reporting an unannounced visitor. Moments later, Michelin, an inquisitor of Pomanism, introduced himself formally, requesting the Empire's assistance on behalf of Palmia's worshippers. One of the Pomian adherents reports to Pope Sargon that the pilgrimage has reached Memphis, causing murmurs to ripple through the room as the attendants express frustration that the inquisitors have failed to slow the group down. Pope Sargon swiftly brings the room to silence, reassuring everyone that there is no need for panic, and explains that the Pomian Church has already planted a mole within the pilgrimage. Meanwhile, Sigurd, disguised as a Pomian knight, listens attentively to every conversation. As the pilgrimage climbs the mountain, Diana grows exhausted, complaining about how far the holy gems of Memphis have been placed. Leonardo notices her fatigue and asks if she wishes to rest, but Diana quickly insists that she is fine. The Holy Order of Dianism begins to tire as well, and their captain, Paragus, drives them to maintain their pace, scolding those who fall behind and reminding them of their order's prestige. When Scarlet turns toward the knights, Paragus apologizes quickly, but Scarlet reassures them that there is nothing embarrassing about their struggle, expressing genuine appreciation for their efforts and constant dedication. Inspired by her words, the knights regain their energy. Prince Julius observes how effortlessly Scarlet motivates the knights, while also sensing that she is gradually growing more like a proper villain. Scarlet teases him, claiming that her power increases each day and that she will not always remain the pure-hearted version he has known. Julius doubts that she was ever truly pure-hearted, insisting he has already seen enough of her personality, but Scarlet counters that there is still much he has yet to witness. Dios approaches from behind. Remarking on how pleased Scarlet seems while speaking with Julius, Scarlet observes that Dios is more athletic than expected, and he explains that elves are accustomed to traversing mountains and forests. Scarlet admits she is mildly impressed, and Dios becomes flustered, confessing that her reaction makes his heart sink. Dropping his joking tone, he asks earnestly for a chance to prove his capabilities and make her fall for his charm. Julius steps ahead and tells Leonardo to continue without them. Nearby, Dios attempts to push his charm further, but Scarlet clenches her fist in irritation and unleashes her wind magic, sending him soaring high into the air. Once the group finishes setting up their tents, Paragus orders the Holy Order of Dianism to take their positions, which the knights promptly obey. Leonardo inspects the nearby holy gems and is shocked by the corruption that has accumulated in just 1 year. Scarlet approaches the tent, and Leonardo reminding her that it is reserved for the saints' changing quarters. Scarlet confidently declares that this is exactly where she must be, as it is time for her to perform her role as a saint. A priest informs her that ceremonial clothing has been prepared and that they will assist with the ritual purification. Leonardo mutters to himself about Scarlet's involvement in something strange once again, his thoughts briefly turning to their parents. Scarlet thanks the priest and steps forward. Julius urges her to explain, and Scarlet clarifies that Dianism does not rely on a single saint. Both she and Diana are saints, though only one is publicly acknowledged. Since the 3rd generation, protectors of Piston have always consisted of 2 people, their blessings coming from Cronoa. One saint removes impurities from the holy gems, while the other restores the barrier. Scarlet plans to use Cronoa's blessing to reverse time, cleanse the impurities, and extend the barrier's lifespan. She begins the rite of purification, activating her blessings and gradually clearing the holy gem. Diana watches in awe, amazed by Scarlet's abilities. Scarlet continues, reversing time around the holy gem, causing impurities to flow backward and disappear. Leonardo is stunned, and Julius explains that while all blessings from Cronoa are valuable, Scarlet's ability to reverse time is extremely rare and crucial. To prevent other nations from discovering this power, the royal family hid that she was a saint. Leonardo admits that this explains many things, including why his mad dog Noblewoman's sister was chosen to be engaged to Prince Kyle and why Julius maintains his connection to her. After the ritual, Diana approaches Scarlet, congratulating her and offering help with changing out of her ceremonial outfit. And Diana admits feeling useless during this year's pilgrimage. Scarlet embraces her gently, vowing to restore her power and expressing excitement for Diana's role in the coming year. From the nearby woods, Dios watches silently, his expression dark and unsettling. The group settles for the night, and Julius receives an urgent transmission from Sigurd, who reports that their efforts have been compromised and warns of a potential traitor, implying multiple infiltrators may be involved. By morning, Julius remains preoccupied, and Leonardo notices. Julius recalls that Scarlet dislikes the cold, and Scarlet complains that striking anyone becomes unpleasant when she cannot feel her hands. Julius urges her to endure until they reach the Lord's manor. Upon arrival, the estate is silent, and Scarlet notes they are clearly unwelcome. Julius demands an explanation from Count Patrick, who claims the pilgrimage was a deception orchestrated by someone posing as a saint and insists that the funds belong to him personally. Paragus protests, and Leonardo warns that obstructing the purification places the kingdom at risk. The Count dismisses their warnings, revealing Piston's newly adopted guardian, the Pomian Saint Terranetza Hopkins. Terranetza focuses on Scarlet, expressing her anticipation for confrontation. Scarlet recalls their encounter at Prince Kyle's ball, and the Pomian adherents react defensively, insisting they have not forgotten the humiliation Scarlet inflicted. Terranetza abandons restraint, releasing her charm-based magic that immediately controls her adherents. Terranetza confirms this is her charm blessing, the same used previously on Prince Kyle. Scarlet reflects that while she considered Prince Kyle foolish, his public breaking of the engagement now makes sense. Terranetza mocks Scarlet further, claiming she will turn everyone present into loyal followers. Scarlet notes that the charm does not affect women, and Terranetza dismisses the limitation. Scarlet's excitement rises at the thought of striking her. Terranetza commands her enchanted followers to attack Scarlet, but Leonardo and Julius intercept them. Scarlet chants a spell to put the attackers to sleep, but one nullifies it with a silence spell. Pope Sargon directs subordinates to proceed, restraining Scarlet in iron chains. But Scarlet breaks free, shocking everyone. She nullifies the binding spells with her red crystal earrings, strikes Pope Sargon's son and multiple attackers, and subdues additional opponents. Isabella, an inquisitor of communism, attempts to protect Terranetza, but Scarlet evades her and knocks her out with a single kick. Terranetza, terrified, collapses, and Scarlet prepares to strike, but a barrier forms around her. Diana screams as Dios appears, holding her hostage and revealing himself as a Pomian spy and inquisitor. He demands a saint-for-saint exchange. Leonardo agrees, and Diana is released safely. Scarlet withdraws as Dios escapes with Terranetza, who taunts her before disappearing. Scarlet collapses from overexertion, and Julius reassures her that everyone else is safe. Unconscious, Scarlet finds herself in a cloudy realm, hearing a clock ticking behind her. She turns to see Cronoa, the god of time, welcoming her and reminding her of their first encounter when she was still in the womb and received Cronoa's blessing. Cronoa explains that Saint Diana's blessing was stolen by Palmia and her priestess Terranetza to destabilize Piston. Scarlet becomes furious at the harm caused. Cronoa entrusts her with the time god's pocket watch, allowing Scarlet to recover Diana's stolen power. Scarlet's partially blackened hair returns to silver as her blessing is enhanced to its limit. Cronoa encourages her to test it, and Scarlet activates her strength and blessings, eager to use them in combat. We cut to a flashback from 7 years ago. Diana, back then just Sonia, lies beside her grandmother at night as she prepares to read her a story about the saint. Her grandmother describes the saint as a gentle protector whose mysterious power shields those she cares about. Sonia, still feeling guilty after arguing with her friend, believes she could never live up to such a role. As her grandmother continues explaining how the saint used her power to guard the kingdom, Sonia slowly drifts off to sleep. In her dream, Sonia finds herself standing in the sky. A radiant figure appears before her and places the saint's blessing into her hands, declaring her the next Saint Diana. When Sonia wakes the next morning, she's confused until she notices a glowing magic symbol etched onto her body. Realizing her dream was real, she rushes outside to tell her family. But nobody believes her until she activates the new power. Shock spreads instantly, and within hours, the entire village gathers outside her home, kneeling in awe. Peeking through the window, Sonia grows overwhelmed by the sheer number of people waiting for her. She steps outside to greet them and immediately spots Mary in the crowd. Sonia tries to mend their earlier fight, but Mary addresses her with excessive formality, leaving Sonia confused and uncomfortable. Before she can sort out her feelings, officials arrive with knights in tow. They identify themselves as clergy from Jan and announce they've come to escort her immediately. According to protocol, she must leave at once to meet those awaiting the new saint. Unsure what to do, Sonia looks to her father for guidance. But instead of comforting her, he addresses her formally, as Saint Diana, not as his daughter. It hits Sonia like a blow. That's when she realizes revealing her power was a mistake she can't undo. As she's escorted away, the clergy inform her that the previous Saint Diana had passed away, and from now on, she will inherit the role and protect the kingdom. Hearing this, Sonia accepts that nobody cares about her ordinary self anymore. When she reaches the cathedral, she meets Scarlet for the first time. Sonia feels instantly overwhelmed by her presence. This is the other saint she'd heard so much about. Together, they perform the sacred ritual to purify the holy gems and strengthen the kingdom's barrier. Later that night, as they lie in the same room, Sonia breaks down. She compares herself to Scarlet, unable to see her own value. She cries, calling herself nothing more than a timid village girl. Scarlet comforts her gently, telling her that her natural brightness brings joy to everyone. But Sonia rejects the idea, convinced she is anxious, indecisive, and deeply jealous at heart. Returning to the present, Diana sits alone until Sigurd enters and announces that Prince Julius wants to see her. When she arrives, Julius sits beside Scarlet, who lies unconscious in bed. Diana asks about her condition, and Julius explains that Scarlet still hasn't woken up. Then he rises and faces Diana with a cold, unreadable stare. She knows instantly, he's learned the truth. Julius confirms it. The high-ranking Pomian they captured had confessed that Diana and Dios were responsible for leaking confidential information about the Jan faction. Diana accepts blame without hesitation. Believing that Scarlet's state is her fault, she assumes she'll be arrested. But Julius explains that detaining a saint would worsen the political instability, and Scarlet would be devastated if she woke to find Diana taken away. For now, she will remain free, but he demands to know her motive. Before she can answer, a blinding radiance erupts outside. A massive pillar of light shoots upward from the direction of the holy gems. Leonardo, witnessing it, recognizes the sight instantly. The holy gems have been completely destroyed. Terranetza stands among the radiant fragments, welcoming the destruction as her followers cheer around her. Nearby, Nanika hides behind a tree, observing everything. He realizes the individuals surrounding Terranetza are Pomians. Moments later, Pomian inquisitors arrive. They kneel and praise Terranetza, reporting the success of their latest mission. Terranetza acknowledges Lord Avelin, Lord Baroque, and the Eldrin Empire's paladins of immaculate divinity for their cooperation. Baroque mentions that their ally, Elder Michelin, headed toward Vanquish but has yet to return. Ein asks about Falconia, and Baroque confirms the mission there proceeded as planned. Ein assumes Vanquish will accept Pomian aid, given their long-standing conflict with Piston. Nanika realizes the situation is far worse than anyone expected. Knowing Scarlet must be warned, he prepares to flee, but Avelin senses him and points him out. Terranetza stops him from killing Nanika and instead uses charm magic. Nanika tries to resist, but the spell overwhelms him. As he collapses, his last thought is regret that he failed to warn Scarlet. Back at the Count's territory, Leonardo reports that the barrier has cracked and an enormous horde of monsters is already advancing towards Snowend. Leonardo warns that Snowend's troops won't survive the assault. Julius immediately orders the Holy Order to assemble and evacuate the town. They scatter across districts, alerting civilians and escorting everyone towards safety to in the midst of the chaos. Sigurd brings even worse news. The Holy Empire of Elder and the Principality of Falconia have declared war on Piston. Julius acknowledges the severity of the situation. After assessing everything, he orders Leonardo to return the garrison and both saints to the capital once evacuation is complete. Before leaving, he looks back at Scarlet's window. Diana watches from the window, noting the tension outside. Overwhelmed by regret, she lies beside Scarlet, wishing none of this had ever happened. Tears spill as she convinces herself she can no longer make anyone smile. Just then, Dios slips into the room. With Julius and the others gone, it was easy for him to sneak in. Diana immediately tells him she's done being a spy. She refuses to provide information to the Pomians ever again. Dios reminds her why she betrayed the Jan faction in the first place. Diana recalls the moment priests declared her blessing lost forever. Even with the sacred staff of the previous Saint Diana, they spoke of her as though she were useless and already considered replacing her. Humiliated and devastated, she nearly shattered the staff in rage. That's when Dios first approached her, introduced himself as a new member of the Holy Order, and asked if she wanted her blessing back. Diana dismissed it, knowing blessings were divine and impossible to restore. But Dios produced a barrier identical to a saint's blessing, stunning her. He revealed he was a Pomian spy and that the barrier came from a gem created by Pelmia's priestess, capable of restoring her power completely. Diana understood the stakes. Without her blessing, monsters would break through the barrier and people would die. Dios made his offer: leak 1 year's worth of confidential Jan information, and he would help her regain her blessing. Diana was horrified by the idea of betraying the kingdom, but the thought of being needed again struck her deeply. Still, she made one condition: none of the information she provided could be used to hurt people. Now, in the present, she refuses to continue. She wants to live like Scarlet does, honestly, courageously, and with pride. Hearing this, Dios steps towards Scarlet with cold intent. If Diana won't cooperate, then removing Scarlet would solve everything. Diana lunges at him with a dagger. He blocks her easily, and Dios can't help but smirk. She still has fire left in her. Suddenly, a surge of power floods the room. Scarlet awakens, her blessing activating instantly. She sends Dios flying straight through the wall and out of the room entirely. Amid the debris, Scarlet stands fully awake, almost refreshed by the dramatic entrance. Overwhelmed, Diana nearly collapses with relief. Scarlet checks on her gently, calling her Saint Sonia. On the road back to the capital, Julius reflects on everything that happened during the pilgrimage. The gem's destruction and the declarations of war all occurred while they were gone. He strongly suspects Pomian involvement. He also fears Vanquish might use the chaos to invade. Before he can finish, a vanquished Redsky Dragoon suddenly lands in their path. Julius makes a dry remark about needing white cloth, half serious about surrendering. The knight dismounts, apologizes for crossing the border unannounced, and introduces himself as Vice Captain Jin of vanquished Redsky Dragoons. He carries a message from Prince Elflame, addressed directly to Julius. As Julius reads it, his expression shifts in shock. Meanwhile, Dios has been captured by Holy Knights. Injured, he complains about their rough handling, but they remind him they healed him only enough to interrogate him later. Scarlet appears. She asks to question Dios alone. Dios panics and tries to run, but Scarlet effortlessly pins him down. She tells him Diana already confessed everything. Dios demands to know what more she wants. But Scarlet says she wants his true feelings. She recalls how, during the festival when Diana collapsed, he was ready to rush to her side. Hearing this, Dios finally breaks. He admits the truth. Diana is his half-sister. Dios explains that his mother was an elf and his father human. He never told Sonia. He learned of her existence when he confronted his father, planning to unleash his anger. Instead, he found a cheerful, confident little girl whose smile disarmed him instantly. Her spirit, her warmth, her liveliness made him feel a bond he'd never felt before. Watching him speak, Scarlet realizes instantly. He looks like someone completely devoted to his little sister. Dios explains that everything he did was to protect Sonia's happiness. He joined the Pomians because he couldn't bear to see her broken after losing her blessing. But now that Sonia no longer wants that power, he intends to betray Pomia as well. To prove his sincerity, he reveals secret Pomian information known only to Inquisitors. To his shock, Scarlet immediately destroys the document. Dios panics. Thinking it was his only chance, Scarlet grabs him by the collar. She tells him that trust can't be regained with a single sheet of paper. If he wants forgiveness, words mean nothing. What matters is opening his heart honestly. Scarlet remembers her conversation with Diana, who openly confessed everything. She acknowledged her mistake and accepted it. Scarlet told her that when everything ends, she must apologize and accept whatever punishment awaits. But for now, she must do her duty as Saint Sonia. Diana wiped her tears and agreed. Scarlet reaffirmed her belief in her, telling Dios that Saint Sonia is far stronger than he thinks. As monsters close in on the city, the Holy Order of Dianism rushes through Snowend, guiding citizens to safety while Leonardo takes command. He orders everyone to wrap up preparations and move toward the capital as fast as possible. Scarlet stands alone beside a quiet lake. Thinking back on everything that happened while she was asleep, monsters invading, two nations declaring war, her plan to restore Saint Diana's blessing getting pushed aside because the crisis has grown even worse. She senses someone behind her and turns to find Julius. She remembers hearing he had gone to the capital and wonders when he returned. Julius explains he came back recently after finishing his work and even tries to lighten the mood by suggesting they play catch. Scarlet isn't in the mood and assumes things must have been hard for him, so she pats his head to comfort him that a beast ear instantly pops up on his head. Scarlet immediately notices something off, because another Julius is standing behind him. When he panics and turns around, Scarlet chops the back of his neck and knocks him out. She identifies the fake Julius as Nanica in disguise, an illusion used by Beastkin, and realizes Nanica was being controlled by charm power. Despite the situation, she feels relieved to have her servant safely back. Nanica wakes up confused on Scarlet's lap. Scarlet tells him they're almost at the castle. He apologizes for being under charm blessing, then suddenly remembers the Pomian plot, Pomians cooperating with other nations and stealing the holy gem. Scarlet stays calm and says they're about to attend a strategy meeting anyway, with Terranetza, the Pomians, and the allied realms all involved. Scarlet quietly thinks that several of them deserve to face her strength. Julius explains that Piston is surrounded on all sides, Falcanian North, Eldrin West, Vanquish East, Lindbergh South. Scarlet notes that all four possess larger territory and stronger armies. Julius continues, the Holy Gem of the North was destroyed, and immediately Falcania and Eldrin declared war. Monsters poured in through the breached barrier, around 50,000 total. Paragus fears the military can't handle them. Julius adds that all monsters are heading straight for the capital as if guided. Leonardo reports both enemy armies are already at their borders, but haven't invaded yet. Scarlet concludes they're waiting for Piston to exhaust itself against the monsters. With tension weighing on the room, Julius officially begins the conference. Everyone looks grim. He asks why they're acting like they're at a funeral. He then reveals good news. A faction wants to take advantage of Piston's dire situation and offer help. He introduces Alflame Rare Vanquish, Crown Prince of the Vanquish Empire. Leonardo is stunned, reminding everyone this is the same man who manipulated Godwin. Scarlet requests permission to speak and calmly explains that Julius must have had his reasons. Alflame gives her a playful wink. Julius explains nationalism must outweigh personal feelings. Alflame clarifies the Vanquish Empire itself isn't involved. He alone is offering support. He mocks the idea they expected the entire Vanquish army to march for them. Sigurd nearly draws his sword, but Julius stops him. Scarlet tells Sigurd that in matters like this, they shouldn't end it with a single strike. They should attack from all sides. She then punches Alflame so hard that he crashes through the table. Jin immediately steps forward, explaining he expected trouble from Alflame and came to act as negotiator. Jin explains the Vanquish Empire doesn't pass down the throne by blood. Only the strongest becomes emperor. Alflame says he would never lose in a one-on-one fight, but securing the throne could plunge the empire into war. Julius concludes Alflame wants Piston's support for his claim. Alflame confirms it. Julius, however, argues that the enemy forces are too massive for Alflame alone. Alflame smirks and says he didn't come alone. A soldier bursts in. 1,000 dragons are flying above the capital. Alflame says they're the Redsky Dragons, an elite air force capable of wiping out 50,000 monsters. Paragus is shocked. Julius smiles but questions how much 1,000 dragons can truly handle. Alflame explains that these dragons have been fighting terrifying beasts from the demon continent nonstop. Julius agrees that monsters can't be reasoned with and admits that Piston lacks the strength to win through force, but says they have a different strategy. Alflame asks if Julius wants to negotiate with the two warring countries. Julius reveals Lindbergh already promised neutrality. As for the others, he hopes Alflame has intel. Alflame reports spotting a small mixed scouting team of elves and beastkin in the northern forest. The group was surprisingly small for a nation preparing for war. Scarlet finds the explanation exhausting. Julius says Falcania never cared for expansion, so their aggression must be influenced by someone else. Meaning, they might be willing to negotiate if Falconia withdraws. Elder might reconsider too. Scarlet concludes they should negotiate a ceasefire while handling the monster invasion. Julius agrees and asks who should go, his eyes on Dios. Dios realizes he was brought for precisely this reason. Nanica volunteers to join, saying some of his kin might be involved and he wants to prevent casualties. Scarlet quietly acknowledges him. Julius ends the conference, telling everyone to get ready. Scarlet finds Dios and Nanica arguing. East versus West route. Sigurd says they started arguing the moment the meeting ended. Scarlet asks if Sigurd's group is heading to the front lines. He confirms they're preparing for the Eldrian invasion. He admits he's not good with words, but vows they'll protect the kingdom. Scarlet smiles and swears they'll defend the land together, on her fists. Sigurd pauses, confused by the phrasing. She walks off, muttering that it's time for monster hunting. Scarlet swoops in on Rex, her red dragon, passing over Julius and Leonardo. Leonardo looks irritated while Julius waves back. Two guards stop her, demanding identification. Scarlet introduces herself properly. One knight recognizes her as the Inferno Bride, confusing her. They claim Rex was a gift from Alflame, enraging both her and the dragon. Alflame bounces in cheerfully. Scarlet orders Rex to deal with him, blasting him with fire. Alflame ends the break and orders the knights to arm up. He assumes Scarlet came because she smelled battle and encourages her to unleash violence. He sets a goal of 100 kills each before leading the attack. Since monsters can't fly, the Redsky dragons bombard them easily from above. Scarlet stands before a pack of orcs, calmly analyzing them. When they charge, she launches them skyward with one kick, then dismantles them effortlessly. She corrects one monster's technique mid-fight, demonstrating proper stance and rotation. The orc collapses before completing a single rotation. Alflame descends, assuming she's having fun. Scarlet is unimpressed, saying the monsters offered no resistance. He laughs that most people flinch at monsters, but she calls them merely unpleasant. She has dealt with much worse personalities. 3 knights rush and begging for help. A bow-like boss monster has taken Mitch hostage. Scarlet calls it the main dish. Scarlet approaches with Rex's help. The monster mocks her and boasts about being reborn through the priestess of Palmia, now calling itself an orc god. Scarlet immediately suspects Terranetza. The orc god displays Mitch and a restrained dragon, boasting about devouring human women and children alive. Scarlet's anger rises. When he reaches for her, she ends him instantly, punching his head to pieces. She remarks that pork is her preferred target. But the monster laughs as a second head emerges from his stomach. His head can move anywhere in his body. Scarlet compares him to a whack-a-mole game and charges in. Her fists move too fast for him to follow. Panicking, he releases acidic fat. Rex redirects it, causing it to hit another monster instead. The orc god mocks Rex until his stomach begins to bulge unnaturally. Scarlet explains that she delivered hundreds of piston-like strikes in an instant, twisting through his fat layers and cooking him from the inside. The monster collapses. The remaining beasts flee. The Redsky Knights cheer and give Scarlet a new nickname. She hates it. They thank her for saving Mitch, but she brushes it off, saying she only protected their kingdom. They ask if she can be their boss. A distant voice rides the wind, sir. Dios. Scarlet instantly recognizes wind spirit transmission. Dios reports a serious problem. They can't negotiate with the Falconians anymore. Nanica watches the chaotic battlefield and wonders how they're supposed to enter the forest. Dios explains that the plan was simple. Follow the path while the Drayans act as a diversion to lure the monsters away. But Nanica doubts whether the Drayans can be trusted since they never seem like the type to stick to a strategy. Dios insists they're doing well enough, especially because Jin seems capable of leading them. Just then, a goblin ambushes Jin and slashes him across the face. Enraged, Jin loses control and unleashes a massive spell. Dios is shocked at how fast the plan collapsed. With everything now swarming in chaos, he realizes they can't enter the forest anymore, much less negotiate with Falconia. Scarlet sees the situation clearly and decides to handle it herself. She rides her dragon through the battlefield and spots Alflame being pummeled by 3 trolls at once. Once he notices Scarlet, he casually finishes off the troll he's been toying with and greets her proudly. Scarlet lands and tells him her previous fight went smoothly. She even defeated an unexpected opponent, an inquisitor named Baroque the H. Scarlet reminds Alflame that the Drayans must stick to the diversion plan, but Alflame looks confused as if he doesn't remember any plan at all. Scarlet's glare cuts through him, yet he brushes it off and declares he'll handle the diversion alone. Ignoring her warning, he mounts his dragon and charges straight toward the monsters. From the sky, Alflame leaps down and ignites into blazing flames. He crashes into the center of the horde, causing an explosion that reduces everything to ash. Still burning, he sprints across the battlefield, wiping out every monster until none remain. Watching this overwhelming display, Scarlet quietly acknowledges him with gratitude. With the battlefield finally open, she signals Nanica and Dios to move. They sprint through the chaos and slip into the forest. Once inside, Dios notes they made it and might now be able to contact the Falconian army. Nanica asks whether he truly came to negotiate and what he even plans to offer. Dios claims his royal elf blood should be enough. Nanica feels he's dodging the question. Dios laughs and wonders why Nanica didn't question him earlier back at the castle. Nanica explains he didn't want Scarlet to be hurt. Despite appearing cold, Scarlet is deeply kind to those she trusts, and Dios had broken that trust. Yet she believed in him again. For that reason, Nanica waited before judging him. Growing irritated, Dios asks why people like them don't simply hate those who betray them. Nanica turns the question back and asks who Dios himself hates. Dios thinks of his clan, who exiled him, and remembers his father abandoning him and his mother for another woman. He admits he believed he hated them, but now he's not so sure. With a quiet sigh, he warns Nanica that trusting others too much only leads to pain. Dios's expression turns cold as he draws his sword. Nanica pulls out his dagger. A sharp wind cuts through the trees as if they're about to clash, only for both to strike upward at the same time. Nanica senses something off about the attackers. Their scent resembles Terranetza. Dios considers they may be controlled. Nanica warns that if this isn't handled carefully, any chance of negotiating a ceasefire will be ruined. A beastman suddenly charges at them with blind devotion to Terranetza. But before he reaches them, an unknown individual releases illusion magic across the battlefield. The spell instantly knocks the charging beastman unconscious. Nanica is confused. Dios immediately recognizes the figure approaching, the elf chieftain himself. The chieftain questions Dios's presence in the forest, leaving him speechless. Nanica answers, explaining that they came from Piston to negotiate a ceasefire with Falconia. But the chieftain reveals they're not acting on behalf of Falconia at all. The chieftain says he intervened solely to stop his manipulated brethren. Before leaving, he reveals the declaration of war against Piston came from the Beast King clans. Nanica tries to step forward, but the chieftain's guard blocks him. Angered, Dios activates his inherited blessing from his mother, the power of the wind spirits. He offers this power in exchange for the chieftain ordering Falconia to stand down. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Scarlet notes that 2/3 of the monsters are already defeated until she spots Flame lying on the ground, surrounded by monsters. As a Cyclops prepares to strike him, she leaps in and kills it instantly. She decides the remaining monsters aren't dealt with thoroughly enough and activates her blessing, moving faster than time itself. In one moment, every remaining monster collapses. She turns to Flame and shows off her work. Flame realizes she'd been worried about him. She heals him with her saint blessing. When she asks about the drains, he learns almost half are injured, with some in serious condition, but healers are working hard as they talk. One of the knights announces the results of the hunt. Scarlet is declared the winner with 2,000 kills. Everyone cheers, but Scarlet suddenly feels a chill and senses something unsettling. Julius notices. Before they can continue, a soldier arrives with a report. The Falconian army is withdrawing from the border. Julius concludes that Dios and Nanica succeeded, though it's too early to relax. Scarlet says they should rest while they can. Julius approaches her and suddenly pulls her into an embrace, catching her off guard. At that moment, Flame swoops in, announcing his drains will now return to vanquish. Julius comments he heard Flame collapsed earlier, but Flame proudly states Scarlet healed him. Scarlet asks if he came just to say farewell, but Flame instead tells her to come with him to vanquish. But Scarlet refuses. She belongs to Piston's ducal family and must fulfill her duty. Flame rejects this, calling her a warrior who shines on the battlefield. He refuses to let her die among people who don't appreciate her worth. Just as he reaches for her hand, Julius blocks him, saying Flame is the one failing to appreciate her. He's loved Scarlet for 10 years and won't step aside. Flame bursts into laughter and accepts the challenge, declaring Julius his rival. Jin immediately smacks him with his spear for trying to fight a foreign prince. Julius says their affection is barbaric. Before they leave, Julius casually mentions that the king has approved vanquished airborne forces crossing Piston's borders. As Jin prepares to depart, he taps the dazed Flame and urges him to wake up. Flame weakly complains, but eventually rises into the sky and calls back for Scarlet to stay alive until they meet again. That night at the castle, Leonardo reports that the adventurers and soldiers defeated the last monsters. With Falconia withdrawing and knights guarding the border, Eldrin has stopped advancing. Julius, however, notes that because Eldrin hasn't retreated, negotiation may be impossible. Scarlet explains that Eldrin is waiting for Terranetza's next move. Julius adds that the divine instrument she used to destroy the northern gem is an enormous threat. Nanica enters the room with Dios. Dios confidently declares he knows where Terranetza is, but Scarlet and Leonardo ignore him and praise Nanica instead. Dios grows irritated and demands recognition. Julius asks if his information is accurate. Dios confirms it. The tree spirits reported Terranetza heading west towards Sahistula. Julius concludes she must be targeting the western holy gem next. Destroying it will draw even more monsters. Leonardo worries they're already too late, but Julius explains Terranetza can't use the divine instrument repeatedly. According to Dios, divine instruments require magic on the level of a god, and Terranetza won't be fully restored for 3 days. Julius says they must find her before then. Scarlet immediately states they should break her into tiny pieces. Leonardo reminds them the mission is to capture her, not pulverize her. Scarlet smiles chillingly and says she'll weaken Terranetza first, then capture her. Julius explains transportation is prepared. They can reach Sahila in a day. The team will include everyone present plus Diana and the Holy Order, 15 people in total. Dios can't believe they plan to take Saint Diana into danger. Meanwhile, Diana is treating wounded soldiers. When the group arrives, Scarlet shows her the divine instrument from Cronoa and explains that using it will allow Diana to reclaim her stolen blessing. Diana is shocked, but immediately agrees to join. Dios reluctantly accepts her decision. Leonardo promises to protect her, causing Diana to collapse in embarrassment. Later, he and Scarlet talk privately. He mentions that temporary barriers around the destroyed gem have stopped the monsters. Falconia has agreed to cease fire, and Eldrin is shaken. Having Vanquish on their side made a huge difference. Scarlet then asks about the 10 years of feelings. Julius dodges the question and switches topics to apple pie, inviting her to try some with him after everything is over. Scarlet says it sounds like something someone would say before dying, making Julius laugh. Meanwhile, Terranetza is frustrated because nothing is going her way. Goddess Palmia tells her to smile like a proper heroine, but Terranetza says she followed Palmia's plan and everything still fell apart. Palmia blames her for not following instructions properly. Terranetza argues she can't destroy everything or the kingdom will collapse before she becomes queen. Palmia dismisses the concern entirely and checks whether the divine instrument is fully charged. Terranetza says it will be ready by then. With a smug expression, she promises to crush Scarlet and Diana. Palmia is pleased. Terranetza then mentions that before the charm she placed on a certain mongrel wears off, she intends to make him complete one last task. The scene shifts to Nanica, still under her charm, casting charm magic on the sleeping Prince Julius before slipping silently out of the room. As they soar through the sky, Leonardo can't help but comment on just how insanely fast the griffins are moving. Nanica, on the other hand, grumbles about being stuck inside a cramped basket the whole time, while Scarlet simply responds with a gentle, knowing smile. Looking down at the land below, Diana grows quiet as she remembers their last pilgrimage, when the townspeople had gathered to welcome them with warmth and cheers. Paragus explains that the area has since been evacuated, but reassures her that once their mission is complete and peace is restored, the people will surely return and rebuild their lives. The group finally crosses into the borders of Sahila. They land in the middle of the desert, where Julius points ahead and says the holy gem lies in that direction. Nanica sniffs the air and detects Terranetza's presence, along with a large number of people, somewhere beneath a stairway ahead. With no time to waste, Julius urges everyone to move. Dios steps forward, clearly annoyed, and complains about how unfair it is that the elf is being singled out. As they move ahead, Rex tries to follow but smashes straight into the narrow entrance wall and hurts itself. Scarlet immediately tells Rex to stay behind with the griffins while she presses on. At that moment, she hears Rex's voice in her head telling her to be careful. As they continue deeper, Nanica suddenly stops everyone, sensing something off. He detects mechanisms hidden in the floors and walls ahead. Julius instantly realizes what that means. It's a trap. Nanica agrees and suggests taking another route. Before he can finish, Scarlet casually steps forward and deliberately triggers it. Arrows immediately fire toward her, but Scarlet destroys every single arrow with one backward kick, stunning everyone. Calm as ever, she says there's nothing to worry about since it was just arrows. Internally, both Leonardo and Nanica think that explanation is anything but comforting. A venomous snake follows, then a swinging log trap, and each one gets dealt with just as effortlessly. Then a massive boulder comes rolling in, only for Scarlet to smash it apart with one punch, brushing it off as nothing but a rock. Watching this, Dios wonders aloud why the rest of them are even there. On the other hand, the Pomian adherents start talking, convinced that the traps they set must have already wiped out the intruders. When they finally turn back and see the group completely unharmed, they're left staring in disbelief. Scarlet thanks them for what she calls warm-up equipment, which deeply offends the adherents. Furious, they shout insults and order an attack. But as they rush in, Scarlet knocks each one out with a single punch. The remaining adherents freeze in fear. Scarlet pouts slightly and says being called a devil really hurts, especially since she considers herself delicate. Dios, Nanica, and Leonardo silently question that claim. Scarlet then says she'll vent her frustration through her fists and steps forward again. That's when the Pomian Inquisitor Michelin appears. Scarlet suddenly feels her body grow heavy and drops to one knee. Dios warns her to be careful as Scarlet mocks Michelin calmly, while he coldly calls her the silver-haired devil. Julius wonders if this is all the enemy has and tells Leonardo to scout ahead. Leonardo activates his blessing and sees Terranetza, but her divine artifact blocks his vision. A surge of magic strikes him, forcing him to one knee. Diana rushes to him in concern. Leonardo explains that Terranetza is alone with the holy gem, but her divine artifact damaged his eye the moment he saw her. Julius says they need to hurry. Diana kneels beside Leonardo, worried, but he reassures her with a gentle smile. Michelin then notices Diana and realizes she's Saint Diana. The adherents gasp in shock. Michelin declares that destroying this false idol in a heretical shrine will earn Pelmia's favor. Paragus immediately declares that the Holy Order will not allow anyone to touch Saint Diana. Isabella cuts him off and attacks with her whip, but Nanica deflects it with a throw. Michelin activates the shackles of sloth, but before it fully takes effect, Dios strikes, recognizing it as a strength-draining ability and trying to destroy it. Michelin counters easily, and Dios admits this won't be a simple fight. Julia steps in and says they don't have time, deciding to push ahead while leaving Michelin to the others. Scarlet hesitates, but Michelin laughs and says they can't pass him without blessings. He activates his item again, weakening everyone and boasting that its power has grown stronger. He mocks Scarlet, saying her strength is useless if she can't even reach him. Scarlet starts summoning wind, but Michelin laughs, claiming he anticipated it and has total control. He introduces himself grandly as Michelin the strategist. Instead of panicking, Scarlet laughs, saying he's still just an old man and that she was only holding back because she didn't want to kill him. Michelin dismisses her as insane. Scarlet compresses the wind in her fist and fires it forward. The blast punches straight through his barrier and knocks him out cold. Julius explains that she compressed air pressure itself, not magic. Scarlet adds that her tutor taught her the technique as a child. Leonardo drinks a potion and keeps reminding himself that his sister is human. Scarlet leaves the rest to them and tells Diana to wait just a bit longer, promising to retrieve her power. Diana quietly agrees. Isabella rallies the remaining adherents and orders a full assault. As both sides clash, Scarlet and Julius push forward. Scarlet says it's time to face the strongest opponent. They meet an inquisitor who introduces himself politely as Ein of the Stigmata. Scarlet senses something strange about him. His presence feels faint, likely due to a magic item. Julius tells Scarlet to move on and leave this fight to him. After some banter, she agrees and dashes ahead using her blessing. Ein claims Terranetza is the true goddess incarnate and no mortal strength can stop her. Julius counters that he has no interest in serving a goddess whose only virtue is her looks. Under moonlight, Scarlet reaches the final chamber where Terranetza waits. Scarlet declares this ends now. Terranetza mocks her and orders her to kneel. Scarlet punches her, but the blow barely works. Terranetza boasts that no one can damage a true leading lady. Scarlet grins, relieved it won't end in one hit, and declares it's time to settle their debt. Meanwhile, Leonardo takes command of the battlefield, assigning roles and restoring order. Isabella orders her forces to target Diana. An arrow flies toward her, but Dios blocks it. He shrugs it off until he realizes the protection expired and he's actually been hit. He pulls the arrow out and promises to keep protecting her. Terranetza activates her divine instrument and prepares to destroy the holy gem. Scarlet accelerates, dodges her attacks, and activates Pentra Dive. Then overclock, stopping time itself. She appears behind Terranetza, yanks her hair back, kicks the divine instrument away, and uses a pocket watch blessed by Cronoa to reclaim Diana's stolen power. Back below, Michelin awakens and weakens everyone again until Diana's power fully returns. Light floods her body as she activates Cronoa's blessing and shields everyone, healing them completely. The knights rally and counterattack. Julius defeats Ein after a fierce duel, learning too late that Ein deliberately opened a rift to Terranetza. Back at the shrine, Scarlet slams Terranetza down and demands she face the consequences. Terranetza claims she only wanted happiness. Scarlet rejects that excuse, saying her tears mean nothing after all the suffering she caused. Terranetza smiles and says a prince always saves the leading lady. A fireball strikes from behind, cast by Julius. Scarlet realizes he's been charmed. Terranetza orders him to kill Scarlet. Julius apologizes and says he can't refuse his mistress. Before anyone can react, Scarlet moves faster than sight and lands one devastating punch, sending Julius crashing through pillars and ending the moment in sheer shock. Wraps up today's recap. What do you think about this episode? Drop your thought in the comment. And if you liked this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you never miss the next one.